The issues of narcissism goes deep. As much as you know about this toxic behavioral disorder already, and as much as you have gained knowledge through your own experience, there are still unanswered questions. I know because I still have unanswered questions. Those questions were answered when I received a bit of a breakthrough the other day. I have had many experiences with a narcissist, as I'm sure you have also. And although it's painful and traumatizing, there are deep lessons to be learned in knowing, befriending, and loving someone who doesn't even know that their behavior is toxic. The answers that we have publicly shared on forums with one another are from a perspective that is rational and from an empathetic nature. We who need answers are seeking out like-minded individuals for those answers, and we are seeking empathetic people who have had like experiences as our own. The challenge in this is that the empathetic answers are given from the side of being scorched in pain. The empathetic individual assumes that they know the mind of the narcissist because the damage done was so scathing and diabolical. The answers from the side of empathy addresses our pain from the side of empathy. The empathetic answers suggest that a narcissist picks us out from within a crowded room, that they are predatory, sadistic, and intentional when they put their sights on you. They love bomb you to hurt you. They devalue you because they need new supply. And all this is true, but I am so tired of hearing about fuel and supply and being told that I have been treated like a target. Maybe some narcissists act like this, but not all of them, and not most of them. We forget the facts. And the facts are that narcissists are hurting people too, just like we are. Oh, there is something very spiritually sinister going on behind the attitude and mind of a narcissist, and I'll leave that for another video. If you have watched my videos on this YouTube channel, you will see that I have done some deep research into the heart of the matter. Scientific and biblical research that delves into the subconscious and conscious. Now, I'm not an expert by any means. However, my background study is people, as I became a peer support counselor at the age of 17, and since then have devoted my life to helping others heal of their emotional pain from trauma. I have also been trained to help people who are dealing with the issues of depression and suicide, and I have even created a workbook that helps to address the issues of these dynamics both clinically and biblically, and I will put the link to the workbook at the end of this video. I have also been trained to help others who have been sexually abused and those who are going through addictions, and through my own personal traumas that I've had to overcome, I share with you how knowledge and applied insight has personally helped me that I know can personally help you. I began studying the term narcissism about 7 years ago, when my then marriage was falling apart and I could not keep it from falling apart. I could not understand what was happening and why the person who I thought was my life partner back then seemed to be acting in the ways that he was that I could not understand. Was it my fault? Did I do something to upset the dynamic in my marriage? If it was me, I wanted him to talk to me. Why would he not talk to me and openly address the issues within our marriage? Well, a friend shared with me a book, an important book about psychopathy. That opened my eyes, not only to the pain that was not being addressed in my marriage, but also why I was in a toxic relationship. I began to research and learn all I could. I watched video after video. I read book after book. I searched the Bible for answers, and then I stumbled on Sam Van Kenen and his amazing breakdown of what narcissism is from a clinical and personal perspective, as he, even though he is a psychologist, is also an expert on narcissism. That's because he is one. He makes no excuses and knows exactly who he is and why he is. His work helped me to write my own book, as his perspectives helped me to see a better view into my own perspective through my own experience. Now, the issues of narcissism, they run deep. And if we are going to help heal others as we do our due diligence to heal ourselves, it's time we step out of the question and answer arena that doesn't give us the full perspective, as the answers we are gaining are from a perspective that involves the heart, the empathetic heart. Now, we all know, or at least many of us are aware, that narcissism is a childhood thing. We all carry narcissism within us, even now as adults. But many people do not like to hear that. But it is true, and it isn't a bad thing. Because there's two types of narcissism. Narcissism that is toxic, it hurts people. When it infringes on individuals' rights and freedoms of what it means to be an individual, that is when narcissism is toxic. No one should force another human being to do what they don't want to do or be who they don't want to be. Anything that goes against someone's morals and ethics is wrong. And unhealthy narcissism forces individuals to do, accept, and acquiesce to things that go against their human limits and healthy boundaries. Now, narcissism is seen in every child, but it is stronger in some than it is in others, but it is still there. And if you're a parent, oh, you'll see it. If you allow yourself to go back into your childhood memory, you'll see it there too. Looking back on my own childhood, I can remember I was always in trouble. I did things that disappointed my parents. And when my parents asked me why I did what I did, I didn't have an answer. It isn't that I didn't want to answer. It isn't that I thought I didn't have to answer. I just didn't have an answer. I just did things without thinking. I did things without considering that my actions might have consequence and might hurt other people. I did things without being mindful of whom I may have hurt or disappointed back then. Back then, when I did wrong things, as a child, I wasn't thinking I was going to get into trouble. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't have any experience in me to tell me why it was wrong. Sometimes we have to repeat things over again in order to realize that they are not good for us. However, my experience was not of that sort. I'm talking about something closer to the heart, a spiritual dynamic. I did not have the experience of love to help keep me on the straight and narrow. I developed a thick skin, as I was always in trouble. Taking the consequence didn't faze me because I did not have the love of my parents to help steer me or guide me. I was often ignored, hardly spoken to. I played by myself, and I really didn't interact with my parents all that much, as I was raised up with this idea that kids should be seen and not heard. And what made this worse was that I was a foster child with two other siblings who got their parents' attention. I was the odd one out, left out of a lot of things, and so when I was unruly, I didn't know why. I had no reason to teach me that being unruly was unloving to others, and it was unloving to myself. I had no point of direction of love to help steer me away from getting into trouble. So when my parents asked me why I did something and betrayed the family dynamic or the family rule by lying or misbehaving, I would offer the only answer I could. Yeah, I don't know. Looking back, I can say I acted on impulse. I did what I wanted, and I did what made me happy. I didn't like getting into trouble, but negative attention, as psychologists know, that is better than no attention. And no attention is what I was used to. The chemical release in my brain craved no attention. And when I got into trouble, I got ignored. I got things taken away from me. I was separated from the family. As I was to stay in my room until the grounding period was over, this is what fed me. I didn't delight in it, but those negative feelings, as it turns out, are just as powerful and addicting as those positive feelings we get from positive feedback. Our brains release the same chemicals and cannot tell the difference between good or bad, right or wrong. Now, this is highly scientific and it's in depth, and I talk about this in other videos and also in other writings. But I can honestly say I was not mindful of what I was doing back then. I was not thinking about my parents when I was late for dinner and they started dinner without me and I would have to go without. I was only concerned for the moment. Time was of no consequence for me. That's because of the trauma that I had endured before I went into foster care. My birth mom would often leave me as a toddler in a room for days at a time with nothing to do, with no food except a jar of peanut butter. I had no toys to entertain me, no TV to listen to. So when my foster parents grounded me as they didn't know my background history and they took things away from me, it wasn't really something that hurt me. When my parents ate dinner without me and let me go without, well, my subconscious was used to this. It's just a light fixture that's almost on its way to burn out, so nothing hokey going on here. So when my parents ate dinner without me and let me go without, well, my subconscious was used to this, and the chemical release from going without is what fed me and satiated me until breakfast. Was I conscious of this? Absolutely not. This is just a thought that is just coming to me as I have written the script for this video. The studies that show scientifically that our brain craves the chemical release, the high that it gets from endorphins, from adrenaline rushes, from negativity or positivity. There is a deep science behind this, and I encourage you to do some research on this. But I do share this in other videos on this channel. The studies that I have made from my own personal knowledge into the dynamics of the brain and addiction is alarming and amazing, and can be applied to what is going on in the heart and mind of a narcissist. I include some very interesting insights on the topic of feral children in my book entitled Narcissism, the Bad Boy Image, and I will provide a link to that book at the end of this video. As a narcissistic child, I wanted my foster family's love. I really did. I knew what that love looked like because I saw my foster siblings get the attention and love from their parents. However, scientifically, if I got it, I probably would have shunned it because the negative imprinting rooted in my subconscious was more familiar to me than love was. And I would have seen love as something foreign and something to run away from because it would make me feel uncomfortable. The subconscious minds hold memories that we are no longer aware of. Even though we have no memory, there is still feeling and emotions attached. And that is what we express. And that is what is used to help us make decisions. Most of us make emotional decisions over logical ones, at least those who are not on a journey of self-awareness. Many times you will come up against someone's ego, and you won't understand why. It is because they are emotionally attached to the subject in the conversation, and they are reacting to the meaning rather than listening to your words rationally or logically. And the meaning that they are listening to is a meaning that evokes feeling. That's just something to be aware of. As children, it is our parents' responsibility to teach us right from wrong. They help us to develop empathy, as empathy allows us to make decisions, not just based on how we feel, but on how others may feel. An adult narcissist is an adult, but parts of their mind is stunted and stuck in the rut of living in childlike desires that fulfill the heart. Just like when my parents asked me why I lied or disobeyed them, and I said, I don't know. And that is because I literally did not know. I did not have the mental aptitude to psychoanalyze myself or the situation at the time. I was immature in my intellectual growth because I was stunted in love. Love gives us empathy for one another. And I had not this in my childhood home. And the narcissist, I believe, cannot answer our questions from a perspective that holds our heart near and dear. A narcissist does what he or she does because they can. There are no consequences, and if there are, it isn't enough of a letdown or disappointment to cause them to stop their hurtful behavior. Does this make sense? They cannot see that their behavior is hurting others. It is not in them to psychoanalyze that viewpoint because they cannot self-analyze. If they cannot self-analyze, how can they offer any empathy? Their intelligence is not mature enough to think of the consequence. If there are consequences to their actions, it isn't enough of a deterrent. Why? Because they probably have already lived a similar consequence in their childhood. Maybe they don't remember, but there is the emotional memory attachment that desensitizes them to any future similar consequences. Does this make sense? For example, if the narcissist in your life is caught cheating and you threaten them with a divorce, only to find out months later that they are still cheating, the threat of you leaving is not a big enough consequence, obviously. Oh, they may rage and get angry when you threaten divorce, but this is not about you so much as it's about a loss of control. So why doesn't the threat of you leaving cause them to alter their behavior? Maybe they have had abandonment issues where their mother or father abandoned them when they were young. Until they deal with those deep-rooted issues, then anything you do as a means to try to repair the relationship will not work. They will do what they can get away with. If you decide to leave, well, they may rage. They may make it difficult for you to leave, especially when there's children involved, but eventually they will find someone else. I know that hurts to hear. However, their consequences is living the same repeated pattern of mistake over and over and over again with someone else until the day that they die. A narcissist cannot look inwardly. They cannot self-analyze and self-assess. So anything that is said to them as a warning or a deterrent, a consequence, it falls on deaf ears because they don't want to hear you because they can't. They can't change. So it's easier to blame shift and make you or the circumstance their problem instead of taking on the responsibility that they are the problem. They see you as nagging and giving them the gears. They don't need you to tell them what to do. They will be the judge of what they can and cannot do, while holding you to strict guidelines and boundaries. So that begs the question, if the narcissist knows right from wrong and holds you to boundaries but does not hold themselves to those same boundaries, why the double standard? It's because they see the boundaries as a means of control. They don't like boundaries unless it is to control someone else. They don't want to be controlled. They like the freedom of having control, and because they know what they do when they are outside those limitless boundaries, they don't want to take the chance of you doing the same thing, as you might begin to see life from their perspective and gain control over your life in a way they know deeply. This sounds complicated, but if you know a little bit about human behavior, it's less complicated. They see the situation from only their perspective. If you live life as how they live it, then you become uncontrollable. You are now their competition. The narcissist always sees you this way. That is perhaps the reason why they control you. However, by chance, if you start living life vicariously the way that they do, then you can't be controlled. They assume this. As they know this about themselves, they are comparing you to them. They cannot and will not be controlled in any way. But they try to control you not because they see life through the lens of your reality. They see life through the lens of their own perception of reality, and it's far different than yours. They see that if they do not control you, that you will do what they do. It doesn't matter if you say, I won't do that, or if you tell them you would never. They are a person who needs to control you because they are a person who experiences life with a lack of boundaries for themselves. You will be able to understand this better if you have had a male narcissist, or a female narcissist for that matter, approach you in a jealous manner, as they are not happy that you have male or female friends. They assume that your male and female friends want something romantic from you. From a guy's perspective, I've had this said to me. They say, I'm a guy. I know how guys think. Well, sorry to say sorry to burst your bubble, guys, but that's a generalization, and all males do not think alike. And I, being a female, have the license to say no. But the narcissist assumes that everyone thinks and acts like they do. This is a false ideal, so they don't have to take responsibility or accountability for what they do or who they are. But staying on point, a narcissist assumes that because they can't control you, that you are going to act like they act. Because you won't give up your male friends, they assume that you will cheat because they would. They want to control your behavior because they assume your behavior is just like their behavior. They can't control their behavior as it's impulsive, so they use intimidation to coerce you to not to speak to your male or female friends. Now, narcissists, they seem complicated, but once you understand where they're coming from, that it's all a system of control, it's an inherent nature, they are not as complicated as they want you to believe. Oh, they like to complicate things, as they are crazy makers. But if you can understand the dynamics of a childhood trauma, as negativity and positively do affect the brain in the same way as releasing the same chemicals, as the body cannot tell the difference between right or wrong, good or bad, reality or fantasy, a person raised on trauma will seek to create trauma or chaos, as this releases chemicals in the brain the subconscious is regulated to, which then trigger emotions the individual's subconscious are normalized to. A narcissist is seeking out love, just as you are. A narcissist is seeking a good life with a good partner, just as you are. They just do not know how to make a relationship work, as they are not mentally mature to take care of the needs of a relationship, to make a relationship work, because the dynamics of their relationship in their childhood was all about control. Now, to give you an example, we see this in sibling rivalries. If you have ever had to babysit your younger siblings, you will remember that you didn't really have much in common with them at your age, did you? Now, maybe your sibling tried to emulate themselves after you, and maybe you had a brother or sister who looked up to you, but they just couldn't understand you. Because you played basketball, they also wanted to play basketball, but you joined the sport for the love of the sport, and you were skilled at it. But your sibling didn't see that. They joined because you did. They were not as skilled as you, but they kept trying to get on the team because you were on the team. Had they had a maturity to know why playing basketball was important to you, maybe they would have gained some knowledge and foresight that would have helped their skills to develop. Instead, they quit mid-season and began to distance themselves from you. They blamed you secretly for their lack of dedication to the game. They became jealous of your talent, not realizing that should they just try harder, they could also become skilled. But it isn't until your sibling matured over the years did they realize that they could have tried harder, and that's on them. Because of this, they then realized that they were the cause for the growing distance between you. There's empathy at play here. But a narcissist is always in a state of competition, not to learn skills, but because they want something within them that they do not have. They look to you to get it, but when it isn't in you to give to them what they need, because you're not about control, they are, they diminish you as a means to get rid of the competition, and they devalue you and discard you. They don't have the inner skills to learn what is needed to have what they want in life. Those inner skills is based on empathy. But if you were to ask a narcissist what that inner skill is, that something was, they would not be able to tell you. They'd say, I don't know, why are you asking me such a stupid question? That's something missing in them that they don't know is missing. It can't be defined without the value of empathy. Because empathy initiates love, true unconditional love, and this is what is missing in the narcissist, as this is what was missing in the child narcissist, as it did not develop when they were younger. Loving a narcissist is complicated, and it is equally as complicated trying to understand them when you don't understand the dynamics of yourself. I am hopeful that this video shares with you a hidden dynamic behind the scenes that answers your questions. I believe that every question we have ever had about narcissism can be summed up in this video. A narcissist lacks empathy and does not see consequence to their wrongdoing because they lack empathy. Empathy is the ingredient needed that stops someone from hurting someone else, and control is hurting. We control our children in order to protect them, but where it's hurting them is when we do not allow them to be individuals. Our parents and family members help develop the empathy within us by allowing us the freedom to control ourselves. A narcissist doesn't want us to control ourselves. By interacting with people we cared about and who cared about us, we were able to let go of the infantile narcissistic tendencies and live in harmony that allowed us to feel safe and secure within our social environments. A narcissist did not feel safe in their childhood and was isolated in their tender years where they needed love and care the most. The lack of empathy prevents them from seeing the situation or the relationship from another perspective. And they can only see from the perspective of selfishness. Because of consistent abuse in the childhood home, they were not able to grow out of the narcissistic childhood ways, and that is because the neurons within the brain are no longer placid, and the stunted growth of a child, because they don't get an even sense of normalcy. There's a lack of consistency in the home. This creates almost like I liken the narcissist as almost like a feral child in some ways, because a feral child cannot be taught. A feral child cannot unlearn what they've learned, and this is so true with the narcissist. So because the narcissist has grown up in an inconsistent dynamic in the home, they see boundaries as stifling and controlling. They see maybe your admonishment as a form of keeping them bound to a life that is rigid, as they feel that you have placed yourself in a position of mommy or daddy, a position of authority over them. Of course you haven't, but that's their reality, not yours. Their reality is self-centered and will always lack empathy and always seek control. Understanding this and a bit of the science behind this helps to address some of those unanswered questions you may have. I address the science in specific detail in my book entitled Narcissism, the Bad Boy Image. It is available on paperback on Amazon, or you can download your PDF copy at the link provided at the end of this video. Narcissists are a different breed of people. Narcissists, in a nutshell, they're survivalists, as empathy is an inherent nature within you that you do not give much thought to. Control is an inherent nature that is within a narcissist, that is the driving force behind all that they do. I hope this video has helped you to understand a little bit more intuitively that your healing comes from within, and understanding the narcissist aids in your healing. However, understanding narcissism from the perspective of empathy, this is unhealthy, because it causes us to lend ourselves over to hate, bitterness, and anger that we will never allow ourselves to recover from. Many answers into narcissism come from a perspective that suggests the narcissist is predatory and manipulative, and they are. However, giving a reason behind these behaviors from the lens of empathy only serves to placate and satiate our wounds, and does not heal them. To heal, we need answers, and answers that are as close to the truth as we can get. Science can help us with. For me, looking into my own childhood and seeing my own narcissistic ways helped me to understand why a narcissist can never have a healthy bond with us, as empathy and control do not mix. I now understand why the narcissist could not give me the answers to why they stepped out of the boundaries of the relationship long ago, as looking into my own past has helped me to understand the behaviors of empathy. The behaviors that empathy cannot understand. It takes one to know one, and although we do naturally grow out of narcissistic tendencies that are selfish in design, understanding these ways of your youth can help you to understand the child trapped inside the adult body, as the narcissist is expected to act like a grown-up when it is not in them to do so. My name is Shannon Gilmore, and I am a crisis outreach peer support mentor, a woman's life coach, and a Christian author, helping you to see that life happens for you, not to you, so that you can step into your divinity as a daughter or son of the Most High. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like. A thumbs up would be muchly appreciated. This will help this Christian channel get noticed by the YouTube algorithms. So please subscribe and share this video. Take a look around as I share with you many videos on narcissism and self-growth and biblical understanding that your pastors may not have told you about. I look forward to seeing you next time, and if you have comments, questions, or suggestions, I'm just an email away. Find my email at the end of this video. Thank you. Be blessed.